Hey guys, I'm Jono, and I thought I'd make some videos explaining the process behind my drawings. There's been a lot of comments about what tools I use to wire wet the paper, or how I get such dark backgrounds with pencils, and yeah, I thought I'd make a video series covering all of those things. So for this video, I'm explaining which tools I use, starting with a pencil. So just a normal pencil. I usually work with the darkest graphite that I can get, or the softest graphite. So for these, that's an 8B. I just find it very easy to manipulate soft graphite. I can push it around the paper and get all the textures that I want. With soft graphite, you're going to be sharpening your pencil a lot. It's going to get blunt really easily. So having a pencil holder helps you just get the most out of your pencils. You can use them up until they're like really tiny, hilariously small even. So these are very useful. It just helps you save a lot of money. For sharpening my pencils, oh no, I've used all my tools. For sharpening my pencils, I use a blade. Yeah, you can just sharpen them pretty quickly with a blade, get really sharp tips, or even if you want a slightly blunter tip or whatever, it's no problem with those. Then because I'm using soft graphite and I need to sharpen often, I use mechanical pencils a lot, because with these you don't need to sharpen. So yeah, I mostly use mechanical pencils, again with the softest graphite that I can find. So I usually use a 0.7mm graphite pencil. And the softest I can find in that is a 2B. Otherwise it'll be a 0.35mm graphite pencil, which only has a B grade or 2H. Then moving to erasers, I use a kneadable eraser. These are amazing. I use this all the time. It's such an incredible tool. You can mold it, so you can kind of get whatever nib you want. You can get quite a sharp point, or even like kind of a sharp surface like that, where you can kind of like cut into the paper. But with this being moldable, it can be a little bit clumsy on the paper. So for those more like accurate erasing lines, I use a Tombow Mono Zero eraser. This is a very small eraser nib, and you can even sharpen it with the blade to get it even sharper. I find that using anything other than a kneadable eraser, you can sometimes smudge your graphite work, especially with soft graphite. So I only use this every now and then. But for highlighting hairs, things like that, this is perfect. Then we have a blending stump. These are fantastic. You can really like get nice shades. You can kind of very easily push graphite around with these and get very even shading done. But there is a trap with these. A lot of people start to rely on them very heavily, and because you're kind of pushing your graphite around the whole time, you lose a lot of contrast. And I've seen people's work just start looking really flat because they've started using these so much, and they rely on it rather than their shading. So I'd recommend really mastering shading with your pencils, and then only when you really want to hide your pencil strokes or get like really even shades between them, use this, and very lightly. It's a very I don't know how to put it, but like a powerful tool. Yeah, you can see the effects immediately. So fantastic tool, but be careful with it. Another blending tool is just cotton wool. I often just grab a piece of cotton wool, I'll tear a tiny piece off, roll it up, and then I have a tiny little like nib. And this allows for a lot softer blending with than with the graphite stick. And often my tools get saturated with graphite, which then allows them to kind of act as a pencil themselves, just a really soft one. So you can get really beautiful soft tones with this. Again, there's a risk if you use this all the time that your work starts to look a little bit flat. So you want to avoid that, and just really try to rely on your pencil work, and then use these as an extra to just enhance it a little bit more. Then I use graphite sticks. This is a 9B graphite stick, so the softest graphite I could find. I only use this to sand it down into graphite powder to then be used with cotton wool. So that's also how I do my backgrounds, but that's for another video. I'll explain in depth how I get my backgrounds. But yeah, I work with cotton wool a lot, and it's a really nice way to apply graphite, especially if you're working with cotton-based paper. The two kind of just work really well together. Then if you're using cotton wool, often you want like a hard line. So for that, I cut out this like weird shape that I somehow managed to, like with this I can outline almost any shape with it. So I'll kind of just like hold it against the line that I want to protect, and then just use the cotton wool and graphite along the edge. And that just helps me protect my drawings, make sure they don't get dirty as well. Then another way to protect your paper when using cotton wool and soft graphite is with masking fluid. But this stuff, again, it's very tricky to use. I found that it damages my paper very easily. Almost every single time it'll damage the paper or just mess up the integrity of the surface. So you'll want to try and use it sparingly. I'd only use it on if I have to use it. So the situations that I find that I have to use masking fluid are if I'm drawing like water drops on a dark background, or any very bright thing on a very dark background. So just to protect that small area, and then you won't notice that the paper's kind of been damaged where the masking fluid is. The damaged paper just stops you from being able to get like really beautiful soft shades. So I think experiment with this a lot before you start using it in your drawings, because it can kind of destroy a drawing if you're not careful. Then to remove it is also very tricky. I have no idea how to remove it, so I just started using these embossing tools to like very gently kind of scratch it off the paper. This is also a tool that I use for hair and to get any like fine textures. So like hair inside pores in skin or something like that, then I'll kind of gently scratch with this. And it creates like a little imprint that the graphite doesn't go into, and leaves a very like soft hair. If you see any of my original works, you can go up close and you'll often find like tiny little hairs in pores and things like that, and that's done with this guy. And it makes it look like there's loads of fine hairs, so that's a really cool trick. My mom taught me that. So yeah, those are all the tools I use. I hope you found this helpful. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. Let me know in the comments what you guys would like to see below, and thanks for all the support. I'm going to try and make videos every week if possible. So thanks. Bye.